clicking the interpretation button and then put English language for because once people begin responding in different languages, you'll hear the AI interpretation in English. So, again, please keep your microphone muted.
Recording in progress.
And unless you're speaking, use the Q&A or the chat to post questions at any time. And use the raise hand feature, and we will invite you to unmute. If you have any technical issues, message us in the chat and our team will assist. So the session is going to run between 60 to 75 minutes. And we will begin with opening context from the CBD Secretariat on the 7th National Report, and then a practical walkthrough of the online reporting tool. After this first section, we'll pause for a round of Q&A. We will then move to the UNEP WCMC presentation for how protected planet.
Spanish translation is not working. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for flagging that. We are working with the back-end technical support to have that set up, and the translation should be joining shortly. So, what can you expect to learn today? An overview of the 7th National Report, what it asks for, how it connects to the Global Biodiversity Framework, a guided tour of the online reporting tool, and an overview of how Protected Planet can support Target 3 indicators and where to find additional resources. So the speakers today, we have Jillian Campbell, CBD, as well as Blaise Fonseca joining us from the CBD Secretariat. From UNEP WCMC, we're joined by Heather Bingham and Ayesha Wijasekera. Thank you all for being here and for your support. So with that, let us get started. Jillian, I will turn to you first for an overview of the 7th National Report. After Jillian's remarks, we will stay with the CBD Secretariat for a walkthrough of the online reporting tool. Jillian, the floor is yours.
Do you want me to show my slides, or are you going to show them?
Yes, please show them.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Sorry. Sorry, I'm just having a little issue. I apologize. I'll start talking while I'm trying to share the slides. So something was weird with my, there, okay, sorry. Good morning, everyone. I apologize for that minor issue. I am going to walk you through the reporting process under the CBD. I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the national reporting process, so I apologize if a little bit of this is some things that you've already known. Okay, I think it's going to work now. Okay, hopefully this is working. Okay, so when the convention was established, it was established through the Earth Summit, and there's the Rio Conventions that were established back in 1992. And as it was established, there's different articles of the convention. Article 26 of the convention relates to national reporting, and national reporting is established as a legal obligation under the convention. So since that time, there have been 6 rounds of national reports, and we're coming up on the 7th round of national reporting. So it's something that happens about every 4 years, and countries report on their progress towards implementation of the convention through this national reporting process. And this is something that, of course, will continue with the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. And the national reports are due in February. The next national report is due in February of 2026. There are a number of recent decisions that outline how the national reports will look. There have been changes over the past 3 decades of national reporting, and so the current 7th national report has some key differences from some of the previous national reports. But that is the current national report that will be requested of parties in the next year. This national reporting is primarily detailed in Decision 1632 of the COP, which provides the template for national reporting. So just in terms of a few of the key issues is that there was a decision when the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was adopted. This is Decision 15.6 that established the dates for the 7th National Report and the 8th National Report. As I mentioned, this is due in February of 2026, and then one of the key differences between the guidance on the 7th National Report and all previous reports is that the reports will include a set of indicators, which we have called the headline and binary indicators. So for the purpose of Target 3, the indicator is related to protected area extent. However, I would say there's a number of other indicators that are also important for Target 3. The indicator on restoration, the indicator on ecosystem extent. These are also indicators that would be very important as you're trying to establish your protected area extent and delineate your protected areas. Additionally, there's a lot of guidance in Decision 1631 on the specific methodology for these indicators, and in the context, again, of the indicator on protected areas, it goes into detail on potential disaggregations that would be useful to include in the national report. Some of those disaggregations are by management effectiveness, governance type, the extent of different types of ecosystems that are covered by protected areas. Those are all different disaggregations that are there. And it's recommending to go a step further than what's in the SDGs. So in the SDGs, you have marine protected areas, terrestrial protected areas, and fresh water is also provided, and I believe mountains. In the context of the GDF, it's recommending a disaggregation by the global ecosystem typology functional groups of IUCN. So this would be, subtropical rainforest is an example of one of the ecosystem groups, and what percentage of subtropical rainforests are protected within your country. So that is this is one of the big changes from previous national reports. And then Decision 1632, as I mentioned, is where the template for the national reports is provided, and it also links with the global reviews of how this information will be used and aggregate it globally to provide a global picture of where we stand in terms of implementing the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So one other comment I have before I go into detail on the template is that the template is based on the national targets. So the idea is that a country would develop their NBSAP, and in the context of developing the NBSAP, they would set a national target for Target 3, for example. So an example of a national target that I've seen, some are very ambitious. So one is to protect 50% of the terrestrial area. This is Burkina Faso's target, actually. So so that's their target. So in the national report, then they will report on progress towards that target. So at this point in time, I don't believe that they have protected the extent that they would protect the target, but then through the 7th and 8th national report, they can say what progress they've made towards achieving that target. So that's how the structure works. So then they're really reporting progress towards their own national target more than they're reporting target. They're not requested to directly report on the global target, because they first say what they're going to do in relation to that global target, and then they report on that. So that's the structure of how it works. So just an overview of all the timelines is that the national targets were requested to be submitted by COP16, along with the NBSAPs. At the moment, about 140 countries have submitted national targets, so there's 50-ish countries that are still outstanding, and almost all of those have set a target for Target 3. And so that there's still a few countries that are in the process of submitting targets and working on the full NBSAP is something that many countries are doing, but that's where we stand with the national targets. As I mentioned, the national reports are then due in February 2026. This will feed into the global review of progress, which will happen at COP17, which is going to be in October of 2026. And then from there, the next national report and the final review of the framework will be in 2028, 2029. The reports are an assessment of national progress towards the implementation of the framework. This is their primary use. They're also a primary source for the global report. So as right now, this is the midterm review of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. So COP17 will be this moment in time where we have the midterm review of the framework. And COP19 will be the final review of the framework. And as I said, the national reports are really what this is based on. So it's really important that there's good information there so that we're able to see how the framework is being implemented and if we are on track or off track to achieve the ambition of the framework. So this is what the national report structure looks like. I'm sure that Blaise will go into a lot more detail on this because he's going to walk you through the system. So I'm not going to go into detail on this really, but the overall idea is that there was a PDF version in the decision. However, because in the decision itself, each country is reporting on their own national target, the template is dynamic. So the template will actually change depending on what targets you've set. And so this is why there's a system that's been created to facilitate this so that it's possible to submit this. It's called the online reporting tool. And this is the steps. So first you would go in there, submit national targets, and then report against those targets all in the same system called the online reporting tool. There's a mix of free text type of questions. There's also binary questions. For instance, we set binary indicators related to some of the targets. Target 1 on spatial planning is an example of this, where there's a set of questions specifically related to spatial planning that countries would answer, and then there's indicator data along with the disaggregations. So this would be like the extent of protected areas, which I believe Heather will talk about. And then in this report, you can also include websites and publications. So a difference from the past, as I mentioned, is one, this reporting on your own national targets, and two, there's a big focus on having structured data. So data on protected areas, disaggregated data on protected areas. The questions are also structured so that every country is reporting on the same thing. And then there's still this opportunity for a narrative that describes what actions are being taken and what policies have been put in place. So there's 5 sections of this report. Section 1 is, I'll go through these really quick, but section 1 is just a brief overview of how the process was established, which national authorities are responsible. Section 2 is on the status of NBSAPs. So do you have an NBSAP and how was it developed? I would say that this section 2 is also requested when you submit the NBSAP, so there's a little duplication there that I think we're looking into. Section 3 is then the main part of this report, which is where each country describes the action that they've taken to implement a target. And as I mentioned, it's reporting on national targets, not on the global ones, and then indicate the level of progress, provide a summary of the outcomes achieved, and then providing the statement that's required as part of the national reporting template. So for the data, you can either use national data, or if there's global data available, for instance, there is through the WPA, you could automatically use that in your national report by clicking the second button. Or if you don't have data, then you could say that you don't have data and describe why. For example, if you were trying to report on marine protected areas and don't have, and you're landlocked, maybe it would say not applicable. I don't think, you probably wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have set that as an indicator, but if you did, you could implement that way. And then there's this subjective assessment of whether you think you're on track or not, or whether a party thinks they're on track or not to achieve the target. So section 4 is towards the global goals. So in this, there's a description of how, for instance, biodiversity is sustainably used. And so this assessment is on the global goals. So how are the actions that you're taking at the national level creating progress towards the global goals? In the case of protected areas, obviously you would expect to see a benefit for goal A, for example, and goal B in terms of ecosystems being maintained and also sustainable use contributions being maintained. And then there's a final section on conclusions, and that is the whole structure of the national report. Then there's quite a bit of guidance in the decisions on how do you prepare the report, and involving a lot of stakeholders in the process and making sure that the process is inclusive and involves IPLCs, women and youth, and other stakeholders, and all of that is available on the national reporting website, and also, as I said, there's guidance in the decision itself. So I think I'll leave it at that, and then I can hand back over, and my colleague will be walking you through exactly how the online reporting tool works. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jillian. That was extremely a helpful overview, and now I'd like to pass this on to Blaise Fonseca from the CBD to take us through the online reporting tool in more detail. Just to flag, for folks needing interpretation, you can access that link I just shared, events.brucelingo.com, where you can find both Spanish and French interpretation and captions and audio. So Blaise, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I understand we have a mixed audience today. Some of you are national focal point to the CPP, and some of you represent the ministries who might contribute to the 7 national reports. So I'll begin with how to access the online reporting tool, who can access the online reporting tool, and then I'll also share how we can the countries can have additional users who can contribute to the country's national report. So the online reporting tool is available on OAX. You need to have you need to be an authorized user representing a government in order to access the ORT. The ORT is split into two sections. One is the public section, which anybody can access, and you do not need a login to access those sections. So that's all published information like the national targets and NBSAPs. But if you want to draft or submit information for your government, then you need to access the private section. Now, the ORT has a unique space created for each government, and only authorized users from that government can access that information. And that information can only be made public by the national focal point to the CBD. So in order to know that if you have access to the ORT or not, once you log in, um, on the homepage of this ORT, you have a brief profile intro of the logged in user. Please make sure case it's Haiti, and also make sure that you have a role. It should be either a national focal point or a publishing authority or a national authorized user. The difference between these three roles is a national focal point is the highest user and can publish information, while a national authorized user is an additional user from the government who can draft information. And once he's done drafting the information, the national focal point can review that information, and if everything is okay, he can make that information public. So here, in case if you are from another ministry or another division or department who wants to contribute to your country's national focal point, what the national focal point from the country can do is click on this national users menu. This will take you to the central CHM mechanism of the CBD, where the NFP can nominate additional users. They will be granted a national authorized user role, and once that has been granted to them, they will be able to draft information for their country's national report. They will only have access to draft that information, and only the national focal point, once he reviews the information, will be able to publish that information. We will not go in the, I will not be demoing the national users how to add additional users. It's just a very simple function that NFPs can do by themselves. So once you have logged into the ORT, you can click on the Seven National Report menu on the left-hand side, and then you have to submit all reports. So this is where once your country submits a national report, everybody around the world will be able to access that report. The second menu is the My Country. This is the private menu that I was talking about. Only authorized users have access to this menu, and here you will be able to draft the national report. So like the template that was adopted at COP, we have 5 sections. If you are at national focal point, I recommend that you start with section 1, because here's the one decision that you should make before you start identifying information for your national report. So once you go to the submission tab, on the submission tab, there is one question that you have to answer. Please select in which language you wish to submit this report. So it's mandatory to submit information. If your country, by default, it will have English selected, but if your country has intent to submit the national report in any other UN language, you should make the selection before you start entering in all the information. It's very important, because if you enter information in this wrong language and later you decide to switch the language, it's possible that you will lose information. So it's very important that you make that. The ORT also allows you to submit information in your national language. So in case if your country's national language is not one of the language, and you also want to enter information in your national language, we also have an option to allow you to select your national language, but it's still mandatory to provide information in one of the UN language. The submission form is quite simple. We have an introduction page that gives you an info about what this section is about. Then we have the submission form itself, where you'll be able to enter information, and then we have the review page. This will give you this will show you how your information will look like once you publish this information. This will also provide you with any mandatory errors or mandatory information that is missing. So once you click on preview, the system will validate if you have provided all the data, and if you haven't provided, the system will highlight that you have missed some mandatory information in this section. The system also allows you to generate PDFs of this section, or if you want to print the information, you also have that option. Another thing is, once you get the errors, because some of the sections will be long, what the system does is like if you click on the error itself, the system will just scroll you to the form and the field which is missing and highlight it in gray, so that you don't have to scroll or find which field is missing in a pretty long form. One of the key features that we have developed with the online reporting tool is rich because the ORT, the national report is largely a narrative-based reporting, you will be providing a lot of text, and you like holding or making some text italic, or if you want to add some tables, or if you want to have some, or if you want to add some imagery to complement the text. All these things are possible. You can also draft information in a Word file, and then just copy paste the text on the ORT, and then the system will try to retain all the formatting that you have in the Word file as is when you copy it over to the online reporting tool. So here you will see an example. I had copy pasted some text from a Word file. So the system tried to retain my formatting. I had some links, so they are there. I had some bold text that was also written, and there was some formatting that was also done. There was also some footnotes that I had provided in my Word file. So they were also written while I copy pasted the text from a Word file. In case if you want to complement the text with an image, you can also do so. What all you need to do is drag an image from your computer. Just as an example, here you see I have a image. All I need to do is drag the file onto the editor, the field where you intend to upload the file. Once you drag it, the system will upload the image to the CBD server, and once it has been uploaded, it will give you a preview of the image. If you think that the image is too big and you want to reduce the size, you can reduce the size. We have a couple of options by default, but if you want to size it by your need, you can just move the cursor to the end of the image. It will convert it to a resizable cursor, and then you can just resize it according to your needs. You can also align it on the left side, so you have some text on the left and the image on the right, however you wish to present the image the way you want. You can add some text to the image, like some image just below the image, so that if you want to add some additional complementary text for the image. Like that, you also, if you upload a complementary text with some attachments, you can also do that. Again, all you need to do is go to your folder and drag the attachment that you wish to upload. In this example, I just dragged an Excel file, and then you can just drag it where you wish to add the link to the attachment. So once I drag a file, the attachment was uploaded to the CBD server, and you see the system converted uploaded the attachment and then provided a link to the attachment, and then as a name of the link, it used the name of the file. But if you wish to modify the link, that you can just hit backspace on your keyboard and change the text as you please. So once you have done, please make sure that you click Save Draft on a regular basis, so in case if there's any issue, you do not lose any information that you have uploaded. So then this section is straightforward. We have a couple of questions, so we'll not go through all of the questions. Similarly, we have section 2. Again, the template is quite straightforward, so we'll not be going section 2, but we'll go to section 3, which is where you'll spend most of your time entering information, because the section 3 is very dynamic in nature, and the section 3 will depend on how many national targets your country has submitted. There is a template of 5 questions that are required to be answered. So based on how many national targets you have submitted, you will have to answer those questions that many times. So for example, if your country has submitted 30 national targets, then you will have to answer those questions 30 times and provide some additional data, indicator data for each of the national targets. Before we go into the section 3, because the section 3 is based on how many national targets you have submitted, we recommend that you verify that all your intended national targets have been published. Please make sure that there is no draft national target, because if there is any draft national target, those draft targets will not be carried in the section 3 of the national report. So please make sure that you go to your national targets section and verify that everything is published. And one of the easiest way to do that is if you go to the all national targets section and then click on the analyzer. I will go to the live site so that I can show you the live data. once you go to the national target section and go to select the country, in your case, your country, and then the system will filter data based on country's national target. I'm not filtering it, I want to show all the countries, and then you scroll at the bottom of the screen. And here there is a nice table which lists all the countries and how many national targets they have submitted. And then it also shows you how many national targets are aligned with each of the global targets. So here in case of Angola, there are 23 national targets, and we see they have national targets aligned with each of the global target. But in case of Algeria, for example, Algeria does not have a national target for target 11 and target 17 and target 19. Probably this is intended, but if this was not intended, and if you expected a national target to be there, and if you think like you had submitted a national target, please contact us and we'll verify if there's any discrepancy and we'll fix it. Because otherwise you will not be able to report on that particular national target in section 3. So after the verification, we go back to section 3. We'll go back to my dev site. Right. So once you go to the section 3, you will notice one information alert for all the countries. This will be provided. This will highlight how many national targets you are reporting against, and how many national targets your country has published, which are aligned with the global GBF targets. In case if your country has not submitted a national target aligned with global target, in that case, the system will populate, will request you to provide assessment against the global target. So because these 2.7 national report, we are making sure that countries report on all the global targets. But you will have to provide information on a global target in case if you have no national target for the global target. So the system makes it very clear. If you have a national target, the system will provide a national in brackets next to each of the target. In case if your country does not have a national target, the system will populate a global target, and it will explicitly highlight that this is a global target that you're reporting against. But the template stays the same, and you're reporting against just the global target. So once you are in a national target, you will be answering those 4 questions that are mandatory, and the 5th question is not mandatory, which is the last question. Describe on the implementation of the targets related to the progress. Once you have submitted this information, you will also are required to provide indicator data for all the indicators that are aligned with the global targets that is linked with your national target. So because today's focus is target 3, we'll look at we'll upload
Objectifs
some.
mondiaux qui sont liés à votre objectif national.
If you think you need to provide data for this row as well, you can go back to your Excel, make the correction, and then upload it again, and then the system will include it in your to save in your indicator data. If you do not have in your national data, but if you think like your national data is available in the global data set, you can select the use available data set. What will happen when you select use available data option, is the ORT will query the target tracker system. It's a system provided by a unit WCMC, which once you have submitted all the information, you can go back to the overview section. The overview section is provides you an overview of the whole national report. It will also give you an option to validate the whole national report at once. Uh, you can generate preview the whole national report at once. You also get a progress of how much information your country has entered for your national report. So here you see
And it makes information on global progress towards these goals and targets accessible and available online. The target tracker presents or shows data for each headline indicator at two levels. So there's the global level with a sort of global indicator value based on data from these global data sets. And then also national indicator values, again, based on data from global sources or global data sets that have been disaggregated to the national level. Next slide, please. So a prototype of the target tracker was launched at COP15, and then a version 1 of the tool was produced later in 2023. And version 1 of the tool is what's currently available online. So it includes global data for 3 headline indicators, and that's the Red List Index, also headline indicator D.1 on official development assistance for biodiversity, and most relevant for today, headline indicator 3.1 on coverage of protected areas and OECMs. And so we're currently working on a version 2 of the target tracker, which involves updating the data that's currently available for these 3 headline indicators, but also adding global data sets and making global data sets available where they are for additional new headline indicators. And so this is currently in the staging site right now, but we're hoping to have a version 2 published and available by end of this year, and definitely in time for deadline for the national reports early next year. Next slide, please. So how can the target tracker support national reporting? So as was mentioned earlier, the target tracker is actually linked via an API with the CBD online reporting tool. So what this means is, as Blaise showed us, when parties fill in their national reports in the online reporting template and submit data for their headline indicators, they'll have the option to use national data to report on the headline indicators. However, where this may not be sufficiently available yet, they'll also have the option to use data from global sources. I believe the option was use available data or pre-populated data. And where global data sets are available and have been made available in the target tracker, due to the link with the online reporting tool, if parties select this option, they should be able to view tabular data for their country from these global data sources. And as Blaise showed us, can view, select them, modify them however they will, and use them for national reporting. Next slide. Yeah, so that's a really brief overview of how the target tracker is connected, links to the ORT. If you have any questions or want to explore the target tracker a little bit further, you can use the links and QR codes on the slide. Thank you. Back to you.
Thanks, Aisha. So moving on to Protected Planet. Hopefully many of you are familiar with this, but it's essentially a platform for collating and sharing data on protected and conserved areas globally. It is a joint product of UNEP and IUCN that is managed at UNEP WCMC, and it's accessible at protectedplanet.net. Protected Planet is made up of several different components. The most well-known of these is the World Database on Protected Areas, which has a very long 65-year history. Was more recently joined by the Global Database on Protected Area Management Effectiveness, and very recently the World Database on Other Effective Area-Based Conservation Measures. There are over 400 different data providers to the World Database on Protected Areas, and the majority of these are national governments, with other data providers able to submit data in some circumstances. But maintaining these databases is essentially a collaboration with all of the world's national governments. And we also collaborate closely in some regions with regional entities that facilitate data collection from the regional level to the global level. And all of this data comes together to form a global spatial database of the world protected areas and OECMs with associated data on the effectiveness of management and governance. And this enables us to provide the headline indicator on progress towards target 3 at the global level, which currently stands at 17.5% coverage of protected areas and OECMs on land and almost 10% in the ocean. It also means that we can calculate progress on various components and complementary indicators for target 3, and we can calculate disaggregations of the headline indicator, and we do all of these things in collaboration with a range of other partners through the periodic Protected Planet Report series. So how can Protected Planet support reporting via the ORT? Protected Planet is built on national data that is analysed in a globally consistent way. So although it's often thought of as a global database, it's actually kind of the best of both worlds, in that it is derived from national level data that is then compiled in a standardised way and analysed in a standardised way. So via Protected Planet, parties can access data, access summaries of their national data that are directly relevant to target 3 reporting, derived from their own data. And that includes the headline indicator on coverage of protected areas and OECMs, but also some information relevant to components and complementary indicators, and information that's relevant to the disaggregations of the headline indicator. And in some cases, UNEP WCMC can also support parties with additional analyses that they need for reporting on request. As Aisha mentioned, the headline stats that are available in Protected Planet will also be available in Target Tracker, so they will be easily brought across into the ORT. And then there's also additional data available through Protected Planet that parties can access and use for reporting if they choose to. So UNEP WCMC is working towards providing more detailed analyses at national and global levels. And in particular, we'll be doing things like providing statistics on coverage by different governance types, which is one of the disaggregations, providing the proxy for equitable governance. We will also be scaling up the data infrastructure that can support the disaggregation by effectiveness, by supporting parties to provide more detailed data on management effectiveness, equitable governance, and conservation outcomes, and then analysing what that tells us. And we're also working to provide national level stats on coverage of inland waters through a methodology that we've been developing in collaboration with TNC. I am briefly going to show a video that just demonstrates how to find the relevant information on Protected Planet. So the first step is to navigate to protectedplanet.net. You'll then find a search function towards the top right. And using the example of Denmark, this is how you would find the relevant country. You click on the search results, and you'll come to a page that gives you statistics on the number of protected areas and OECM's headline coverage statistics, and a range of other pieces of information that may be useful for reporting. You can also explore the data on the map. So you can zoom in and move around the map to look at the data in detail. And there's also a download function that means that you can download all of the data that your country has provided and look at it in depth in a range of different formats. During that process, you might potentially identify that there are issues with the data that's been reported to Protected Planet. And if you do, I would really encourage you to work with us to update the data, even if your country doesn't plan to use it for reporting via the ORT. And that is because updating the data is important for a whole range of other reasons, including that it means we're able to accurately track progress towards Target 3 at the global level, in addition to its use in tracking progress on Sustainable Development Goals 14 and 15, and a whole range of other things that the World Database on Protected Areas is used for. If you do identify anything that needs to be updated, please contact us at protectedareas@unepwcmc.org. The process for updating the data is reasonably simple. It involves providing spatial and tabular data that we can explain the standards for, and we're very happy to provide support and additional materials on how to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you so much for all the presenters. So let's open up the conversation. We want to have about 10 minutes, let's say by 10:25, 10:20, we'll end the call today. And let's open the floor again for any questions that you might have. Before, you're welcome to raise your hand and unmute or type your question in the chat, and we'll take a few now that you might have. And again, there's interpretation available in the link. So in case you want to do the question in French or Spanish, please feel free. All right. Well, it seems that the presentations were very clear. So as again, just a little bit of next steps, the hack will be sharing to all the guest participants the resources. We're recording this call as well, the Zoom call, and we'll be sharing. Oh, so Donald has a question. I'm not sure if Blaise would be willing to respond that one. How are country targets introduced into the ORT?
I'm not really sure if I can answer that question. Maybe it's something that Julian can. Maybe we can maybe we can answer the question through Julian through email.
Perfect. Donald, we will be responding to your question shortly. Jillian unfortunately had to leave due to another commitment. We have, yes, we have a question by Mauricio. And yes, that's for you.
Yeah, great question, Mauricio. So this is around where protected planet indicators don't exactly match what countries themselves have calculated at the national level. There's a range of reasons that this can happen, including things like very slightly different total areas being used for the country at the calculation stage. So there's lots of reasons why there might be small differences. But if you're reviewing the data and you find that actually the numbers in protected planet are significantly different to what you would expect to see as a national government, then I would absolutely encourage you to get in touch with us. The data is largely provided by national governments. So often if there's an issue with the calculations, it can be fixed by updating the underlying data. So I'll put the email address that you can contact in the chat again. And if you do notice any of those issues, you're welcome to contact us. And the solution is essentially to work together to make sure that the underlying data is updated and accurate.
Great. Hector has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to appreciate the information. It's very useful and very opportune. I would like to request that the presentations are made available, if they could be circulated, because some of the slides were presented very briefly. If that could be done, it would be very useful. And my question is related to SOPSTA 27. What do you anticipate will be the visibility of this process during SOPSTA 27 in Panama City? We believe it is important that this information is presented again at SOPSTA. And on that note, we have a concern about the participation of different parties during SOPSTA 27 to be able to absorb all this information and to be able to familiarize ourselves with the process with a view to February 2026. And the issue is that for some countries, the financial support being made available is for only one participant, including small island developing states like Cuba. And that will be a problem for us to be able to cover the whole myriad of issues that will be related to the national reporting. Especially because in our case, a single member delegation will be very limited in the capacity to be able to cover all the information and to be able to interact and deliver eventually in 2026. So this is our concern. The question on SOPSTA 27, how do you anticipate you will make this visible and what would be the engagement with the different parties? And also the request, please make the presentations available. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I can answer.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I can answer the first part regarding the support during SOPSTA. So we are going to have help desk during the SOPSTA, all days for SOPSTA. I'll be available there. And if there's any technical issue related to the ORT, we'll be there to provide any support that any countries require. We'll also have a booking system that will be made available to participants if they want to book any particular time slot during the SOPSTA, so that we can have a one-to-one session for the countries. I think in case of the funding, I think it will be better to take that up with the secretariat. Maybe you can write it to the secretariat on that part. And I also wanted to go back to the question from Donald, how our country targets introduced in ORT. I'm assuming what the country targets are national targets. So countries will have to use the national target section, which is the part 1, where they will be able to provide national targets which are aligned with the global targets.